SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network, link 293. I am your host, Spencer Presley, and joining me on this very spooky mid-November podcast is the ghost of Atlas News Past, because there's no news this week. So, what's the best thing to do when there's news? Bring on longtime friend of the show / ex-Best Buy employee, Nikki from the Filth Kalpa. Kalpa? It is Kalpa, right? Nikki, how are you doing today?
Kalpa. Hi. I'm doing fine. It's almost like it's been 3 years since I've been on the show last.
Mm-hmm. And nothing has changed, right? You're still in the exact same spot you are in life. Nothing is different, and you're here to talk about your latest game maker build in, what is it, 2.0, 3.0?
I'm here to talk about my new my new stencil game. I'm trying to think of the most like off the cuff, like weird game dev engine.
It is funny to think about it. I was looking through like old Discord messages, and I remember being like, you were showing me like progress reports on your old game, circa 2020, and now kind of comparing, because like. Well, let me see if I can remember. Like, was it at the time like in almost like either a homage or a version of just like SMT1, but like in a different take, or like what was the game you were working on back then?
The game I was working on back then was like this weird SMT game, but like with my own little lore for it. I had like a recreation of like a school area in SMT1. But overall, it was like it barely worked. I just showed a bunch of clips of walking around the fucking same hallway, and it wasn't good. I couldn't walk in the walls because if I did, it would fling me out of the area.
That's the best part of game development, when you have to explain to people like, listen, you don't understand how much actual nightmarish work goes into something as simple as a person opens a door and the game doesn't explode.
Yeah, no. I've learned the fear collision physics.
So,
but it's 2 years later, and I can say that I'm a little bit better at game development than I was back then.
Yeah, you had a couple of years. You were on hiatus. You moved to North Carolina, worked on Fortnite for a year and a half, and now you're here to talk about your brand new game.
Yeah, I went down into the game dev mines. I worked there for several years, knocking down code with a pickaxe, and now I'm back.
I'm just imagining, like, have you seen that, like, the stupid meme of, like, they stopped at insert joke here, but for, like, game dev stuff, it would be, like, oh, man, I'm going to finally stop becoming a game dev, but then, like, on the other side of, like, if they stuck with it one more day, it was just, like, I'm imagining Crytek Engine 3. Be like, oh, man,
yeah.
if only he stuck with it, he would have had one of the worst engines out there, but no, it's okay.
No, so your girl stuck with game development for a while, and now I can definitely say life is a whole lot different than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, is it weird? Like, I haven't asked if have you done much shilling? Like, have you either like talked to people about like, hey, like have you had that moment where you're like, oh hey, I need to just like, my job is just to make and promote this game now. Like, have you like had that moment yet of like, oh, this is weird?
I've had it a couple times because I quit my retail job back in July, and I've been working as like a full-time game dev since then. And it just like fully hit me that I'm just like, oh fuck, I have to do a good chunk of the promotion. because like I pretty much am my own marketing team. It's weird to say that now because I actually have a marketing team now.
Oh, that's doubly weird then. So for marketing, so they don't get mad at us, we should probably say what you're working on now in all seriousness. So do you want to like kind of tell everyone the like tweet sized pitch for what is They Speak from the Abyss?
Yeah, They Speak from the Abyss is a first-person dungeon crawler in the same style as like the first couple Shin Megami Tenseis and Baroque, about just adventuring through a sort of hellish dimension full of weird, wacky, horrifying demons. I don't want to say wacky. For the love of God, I don't want another fucking Undertale comparison.
Have you had any
Uh,
Undertale comparisons?
I I have, and I don't know. I don't know how it happens.
I hope you know that now means you're like legally obligated to include Sans somewhere as a super boss without Toby Fox's permission.
I that okay. One, that sounds like a legal threat. Into
I,
that
I'm gonna
sounds
say
like
I'm gonna
a
say right
mental
now.
welfare
I bet
threat.
you Sans is not like like a trademarked character. I'm gonna check this now and fact check myself. But I'd be very surprised if Toby Fox had like copy marked Blue Skeleton Man.
I don't also want Undertale anywhere near my game. Anyway, it's a terrifying little game. I've been working on it for a while. I think after like I scrapped that SMT fan game I was talking about, I started working on They Speak.
So what was there anything that kind of led you to be like, okay, I want to kind of move from one project to another? Like, was it just like you weren't like super loving like the process of making it, or were you just kind of more excited to make something more original in your own?
I was kind of feeling a bit disenchanted with especially a lot of fan game projects because around that time was whenever like different companies were putting on the banhammer on different fan projects, and I just remember thinking like, okay, one of these days Atlas is gonna go like crazy with the lawsuits and cease and desist, and lo and behold, that was proven to be true.
And lawyers
And
are pretty scary, to be fair.
lawyers are very scary, so I decided to like sort of take the general like structure of that game and do something original with it that eventually evolved into the game I have today.
Yeah, so like what was kind of the inspiration for you in terms of like obviously they're kind of similar in terms of um, gameplay in terms of like at least looking at like you're moving through something from a first person perspective and stuff, but there are a lot of differences. I would especially say with like setting and tone more than anything. Like what was like for you like I guess like what kind of came first for it, like how it's going to look for you, or like how the game's going to look for it, or more like what the game is in terms of like its bones and stuff.
Okay, so I first of all wanted to pin down like the atmosphere because I knew that like style was going to be the main thing about the game that I wanted to like emphasize because I know for a fact that I'm not a strong coder. I can't make a lot of really intricate deep mechanics, so I'm just like I'm gonna make the game look interesting and sort of let that carry things until I can get better with coding. And lo and behold, like a couple of years later, as I just kept working on it, that very thing happened where it just evolved into the current product.
And like
Uh,
we kind of joked on about it in the beginning of the show. Are you still working entirely in Game Maker?
I I have never worked with Game
Oh
Maker
no,
in the
sorry,
past.
not Game Maker. It'd be Unity, right?
Yeah, Unity. Unity is the engine I use.
Honestly, like especially for pixel games, it is so 50-50 if it's ever Unity or Game Maker. So that is entirely my bad.
I mean, Unity has like actual built-in support for 2D stuff. And Unity, sorry, Game Maker was like made with 2D in mind as the primary thing that would be made for it.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just very much like you use whatever is best for the game you want to make. And
I
with
feel like at least with Unity from like a consumer like perspective, and at least for devs, it goes like this: if it's primarily something in a 2D aspect, not even if it's like 2D graphics or whatever, but like it's like in a 2D perspective, Unity, you're probably going to be okay. The more your 3D gets involved, the more Unity makes me nervous. Just for like those examples of like Unity is a really great engine surface and a really great like toolkit to use, but like when it comes to big AAA Unity games, like what comes to mind for you even as like a like person who enjoys playing games and as a dev perspective? Because like there's really not a lot that people think of. Like my big one, I'm very biased. I think of the newest like Oddworld game. Like that's still probably the best looking Unity game I've like ever seen.
I mean, Unity is a toolkit, like you said. Um, it really just depends on like the person using it. Like I've seen some really shit looking Unreal games.
Oh God, I know. Unreal's thing is like so funny. Like if you're like, like if you're someone who likes making unique textures, good news, Unreal will be good for you. If you're someone who's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna buy this toilet for $2 online and just copy paste stuff everywhere. It's so easy for an Unreal 4 game to like just look like it's just Control V the game.
Yeah, but Unity was made for God. It's used in so many different games. I have a list pulled up here. Fucking Untitled Goose Game, Fall Guys.
I always
Um,
appreciate the games that are in Unity that you would never have known they're in Unity. Like those are always like some of my favorites.
Also, fun fact. This is gonna look bad on my character. Uh, the knowing this weird little bit of trivia, but the Danganronpa games are also made in Unity.
Yeah, I think that's mostly all based off of the PS4 port, if I'm not mistaken. Because I know the Vita ones are all based off the PSP one, which was a custom engine set. But then all of those ports from like PC to PS4, and then everything else that came to like mobile and stuff, those all ended up basically getting ported to Unity. Which like for something like Danganronpa makes
Yeah.
total sense because it's like it's like yeah, just make it easier. That's why I always found it was funny when people were up in a tizzy about Nocturne HD being ported in Unity, as if like that just meant it was automatically going to be bad. It was like no, honestly, like why make your life
Whoa, that fucking shit.
well, like the funny thing with that was like any technical problems Nocturne HD ever had, none of it came from it being in Unity.
Mm-hmm.
It all just became of like the way they decided to emulate that game and then put it in Unity was basically like its bigger issue for it. So like that's why I'm always in the side of like yeah, I think Unity definitely gets way too much of like a hard time because like, yeah, you mentioned like a whole bunch of other games and I think like even like Cuphead and Ori are great
Yeah, yeah.
examples of stuff like that's insane. Like when you think of like compare like the other like percentages out there of like yeah, like if you have like a really set like vision for it, like that engine's not going to hold you back if you know like what you're doing with it.
Yeah, it's more about the person or people using the kit, and not like the kit itself. But Unity has been like wonderful for me so far with making they speak.
Yeah, what's the like support been for you in terms of like have you been able to like because like I have a lot more knowledge in terms of like ironically Unreal dev support. I know what that process is a lot more like as opposed to like Unity. So like are there like places where you can kind of go into like dev forums and stuff of like hey I'm having an issue with this or hey I want to try and do something like this that you can kind of reach out to other people and get help with through other Unity developers?
Well, I have the good fortune of being in a big game dev support network as it is, since I have like a large number of fellow game dev friends who also work in the same engine. I can be like, hey, this is a weird bug. Do you know anything about it?
Can
And
you give me in the audience like a out of context, spoiler free bug you have had recently that just would make like no sense it like without any context of like seeing, because like similar to how we talked about with like doors and collisions and like running into walls, like have you had anything recently that even you're like, why is this an issue, what's happening?
Yeah, I've had a couple issues like that. Watching people play my game on stream has been insanely stressful because they'll come up with like some weird bugs out of nowhere. The most prominent example that I can think of off the top of my head was whenever Markiplier played my game, and he somehow clipped out of the maze.
Oh, I
And
remember you tweeting like your reactions to watching him play that. I'm like, I can't like, that is that like, I don't know, is that more nerve wracking, or is it more like you like are over analyzing everything? Like when you're watching someone with that big of a following playing something you made. It's not like, oh, we made this. He was playing something that you made to like
mhm,
hundreds of thousands of people.
millions even. Uh, so it was really nerve-wracking whenever I was informed about it because this is still back whenever I was working my retail job, and suddenly I just get a ping out of nowhere of some person. I don't know who it is. I have not seen them since. Just messaged me on Twitter with a suspicious link to a YouTube video, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see what this shit is. And it was the Markiplier video,
I'm trying to
and I
remember.
just
Was
remember
this
like
for
freaking like,
the?
wait,
Was this like when you? I forget if you had released it. Like, was it with a bunch of other demos as well, or like was his video themed around a bunch of other demos and yours was included?
oh, this was later. He played in like the three scary games thing that he does, where
Yeah.
he plays
Okay.
like a set of games.
Gotcha.
And then later, I submitted the game to the Haunted PS1 demo disc,
Mm-hmm.
and I was informed that it was accepted. So I got to see my game among a bunch of other amazing titles like Bob of Sanjar and Gob. I could geek out about the demo disc all day. There's so many fucking good games on that.
That was an interesting one. Out of like when that PS1 like haunted demo disc thing hit, I feel like I heard way more people talk about that than I normally kind of heard about those things. And I don't know if it was just like maybe because we're now in a post Bloodborne PS1 demake world where people are now kind of more used to this being a thing of like, hey, check out these like games like that kind of fit this like we're now in that era where it's not just games looking like NES games that like are nostalgia triggers. Like we're having games that like have low poly or like high pixel but like kind of like low resolution look. It's like that's their shtick.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to tell. I think like just a lot of people are starting to appreciate the aesthetic more, and I really like that.
Are you ready for a hard question for They Speak?
Okay,
If
go
you could
ahead,
go
shoot.
back in time, you don't have to compromise your game at all. So whatever vision you have for your game when it's out, it's going to be all there. What platform would you want They Speak to release on that's not PC?
Okay, so my dream would be like PS4, PS5, because those are the ones that like I actually own.
I will be very
and
surprised if
and
you would not.
maybe Switch.
Well, no, those are all systems like it can be on like that. We could make that happen 100%. I'm
Oh,
meaning
do you
like
want to make me go off the cuff and weird?
old stuff. Yeah, like we're gonna go back in time and give you a 1994 release for They Speak and put it in like a PS1 long box. Like any
Okay,
system at all. It doesn't matter if it could
okay.
technically run it or not. You'd go back in time and be
Tell
able to
me,
like to make that on like fucking the
let me
Sega CD or something.
let me tell you about what I would do. I okay. Here's a list of consoles that I would go out of my way to have these speak run on: Sega Saturn,
Oh, that's a good one.
either the Saturn or the Sega CD, either or.
They Speak seems like it'd be a Europe only Saturn release for some reason. I get big like EU,
Yeah.
like you'd have to import it for some reason. Like of course it wouldn't have come out over here.
Uh, it- the Zeebo.
Oh, okay. I hope there's a homebrew community for the Zeebo out there.
I really hope there is. I just think it'd be really funny if I just released a game and it was on like some weird like out of left field console like the Zeebo or the Wonder Swan.
I was thinking of the Wonder Swan. What a weird one that came to mind. How about They Speak on the Vcast, the old Verizon cell phone 3D games?
Yo, okay. I'm into it. I like it. I like it.
It's like, I don't know if I'd want to play this game on my iPhone 13, but on a 2-inch Verizon Flip, a Razr phone, yeah, now I could play it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, could you imagine They Speak on the Virtual Boy?
The colors would somehow, like, I'm just imagining, like, the pulsating eye walls and just being like, this is actually just a mirror. This is what my eyeballs look like right now.
Yeah. That's accurate. Yeah, that's right.
That's too funny.
Yeah, no, those are the choices I would make if I had to like choose some weird console to port They Speak to. If I had infinite resources.
Now you did. I am gonna have to dock you a few points. You did not say the PlayStation Vita, which I am a little disappointed in, but I understand. It's okay.
I mean, I don't have as much an emotional connection to the Vita as I do the Zeebo.
Now, if that wasn't such a long sentence, I would have just made that quote the episode title for this week. I love it. Like, you're probably one of 9 people in the world who'd be like, I just can't. I'm sorry, I can't connect to you right now as much as the Zeebo. The Zeebo is really the thing that's doing it for me. Everybody, I gotta play Resident.
Yeah.
I gotta play Resident Evil, not 4, the movie game everyone forgot about. I gotta play it on my Zeebo.
Yeah. God, the fucking Zeebo.
You know, man, South America, they were ahead of their time by also being behind the times.
Yeah. I have a friend from Brazil, and that's where like the entire like Zeebo gag came from.
I'm just hoping
And
at some point you get your hands on a Zeebo.
If I can get my hands on a Zeebo, I'd be so happy.
Now,
Like if you want to send some random woman on the internet a gift, DM me and I'll give you my PO box and you can send me a Zeebo.
Can we turn you into like I forget, I think it was Bloodborne or something, of like there was just like this random woman online who was not catfishing men, but was basically being like, hey, I need you to buy Bloodborne for me. And then she would just block them after they block. Like, we need you to catfish somebody, but like with their permission. But you would make it very clear, I'm using you just for the Zeebo. As soon as I get the Zeebo, we're done.
I would actually love that. Like I'm not the type of person who would do that, but the thought of doing that is hilarious.
Now, what would be funny is if that's actually how like you met like the love of your life. You'd be like, how'd you guys meet? Well, I was going to catfish them because they had a Zeebo and it was $9,000 on eBay, but they were kind of cool and had a second controller, so I let them move in, so it was okay.
Yeah, like if you can get a Zeebo with 2 controllers, I would 100% let you play.
You know what they say, the couple that Zeebos together stays together. Also, I just realized I'm not going to explain what the Zeebo is, everybody. Me and Nikki are just assuming that anyone out there would know what the Zeebo is. So for all of our non-Brazilian fans out there, please look up and learn about the Zeebo.
I just think it's funny to just like mention the Zeebo and not go into detail. I see an unboxed Zeebo here for $500 and then a box Zeebo for $500.
I want you to answer this honestly, because you remember I don't care. I just want to I want to hear your honest thoughts. If you said the Zeebo and I asked you what is that, like I clearly didn't know what it was, would you have judged me a little bit?
No, I just wouldn't explain. If you asked me what a Zeebo was, I would just be quiet. I just wouldn't say anything.
The Zeebo is kind of like the Z job. If you have to ask, you can't afford it, so I'm not going to explain it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you have to ask me what the Zeebo is, then you obviously aren't in the cool club.
Oh my god.
And I'll be damned if I get a lecture from the cool council about telling somebody about the cool club that isn't the cool club.
I want you to know, I'm going to, like... It's a shame the Zeebo didn't have physical media, because it'd be really funny to make, like, a fake Zeebo case as, like, a Kickstarter incentive.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's like saying, like... Oh yeah, if this gets funded and the stretch goals get hit, I will send you a customized They Speak Dendi case.
Oh, okay. I mean, hey, other Kickstarters,
Or
they want to do the fake N64 case. That's the real top tier. That's what you're really aiming for. So
I
yeah,
actually do. I do really want to do like the physical They Speak like jewel case release at some point, but I was advised by the powers that be that physical media in a Kickstarter may not be the most amazing idea to do.
that's actually a really good transition, because I do want to talk about the They Speak Kickstarter. So by the way, everybody, by the time you're all hearing this, you have 7 days to help make the Zeebo classic that you never knew existed, They Speak from the Abyss. You guys smashed your goal. You guys were asking for 20K, and right now you're basically a little over 21K. And so everything else is just icing on the cake of, like, apologize for me being unprepared. Have you thought of trying to, like, be like, hey, get a 22K stretch goal or anything, or just kind of whatever slides in is just icing on the cake?
We're actually my publisher is putting up the stretch goals as we speak right now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so all the links to checking out the game, the demo, the Steam page, the Kickstarter, that'll all be there. So if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, you'll be able to just kind of click and check it out. I highly recommend checking everything. I mean, also it's a demo, so like there's really nothing to kind of lose there unless your name's Markiplier. So like just check it out and don't break the game.
There's a new demo coming out soon too.
Oh, okay, like before the next week or so.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it done as soon as possible, but it's a lot to do alone.
You should have just guilted me and be like, I was actually supposed to be done tonight, and you made me come on this.
Yeah. No, it's also kind of sad because I did actually have a game I was supposed to finish tonight.
Oh no! Okay, well we'll make this we'll make it shorter than last time's episode, so it'll be under 2 hours to keep you out of here then.
All right. Yeah. No, it's fine. I'm having a blast right now. I'm curious because this seems kind of like out of the wheelhouse for this kind of show.
Oh, clearly you've not been following. You are aware you're not the first indie Kickstarter we've had on this podcast before.
Oh fuck, that's cool. Okay, I was kind of feeling bad. Like, do I really fit on this show?
No, like the last one we had on. We've had a couple, I think, in the past, but like we had one on the last 12 months. Oh man, I'm gonna feel so bad for it just because I'm getting off of working and stuff for it, but we had one by listener of the show was like, hey, I'm working on this game. It's this like pixel art RPG inspired by Persona and some other games and stuff. Can you come on? That's all you need, because like I just love talking to game devs about games. So like if you're even like 1% related to it, why not? Because most people probably don't know what like They Speak is. And I can't think of anyone who would enjoy listening to the show be like, I don't want to learn about a new game.
Yeah, just like, video game, bad.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, gross. I only play games made by the A company. Atlas or bust.
Ugh.
So yeah, no,
I
do
don't
not
even like Atlas.
do not feel bad for being on here. I always kind of more so feel funny of like asking people to come on when it's a very unrelated kind of thing, just because I'm always just looking and chomping at the bit for like different kinds of folks to bring onto the show and stuff. Because like I'll never forget, like our first guest we ever had on the podcast was just a guy who wrote for Destructoid who I liked a lot. And like that was it.
I mean, hey, that's respectable.
Yeah, it was like, so I brought on like Jonathan Holmes, and we just talked about like his history with Atlas games. And I remember like he started the show and he was so nice. He's like, is it okay that I'm here? Like, you guys know I don't work for Atlas, right? Like, why am I your guest? And I was like, no, we just want to have you on. We just want to have you on, please.
Yeah. No. Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, we're not gonna. You will not be getting comments being like, "Oh, what's this person doing out here? We were supposed to talk about the Game Award nominees, and you blew it."
I can't believe you brought this woman game dev on. How dare you?
I'm very confident in saying this is probably one of the rare podcasts that exist out there that, even though it is primarily run by a like cis white dude, has definitely had more women on than men by like 2 or 3 times.
Let's fucking go.
Well, it's always one of those funny ones of, especially like, white guys having podcasts on the internet is such like that like joke stereotype, but like literally for years like we would do the show with our longest like trio of hosts that we had for like almost like 7 something years was like me, my friend Melissa, who's a girl, and my friend Waffles, who is trans as well. And it never came up, and people would be like, "Oh man," because it wasn't like, "Oh, we're diversifying it because we want to." It's like, no, that's just our stupid friend group of all I could get to drag and talk about SMT and stuff. So it's just one of those funny things of like, yeah. It's never been a thing of like, oh, I'm only inviting all my white guy friends on the show. Most of my white guy friends don't know enough about this, and weirdly enough, I know way more people who are not straight white dudes who are into SMT.
Love to see it. But yeah, I actually okay. I can talk about this now, because as you were saying that, my publisher released the stretch goals.
All right, I vamped long enough. Hold on, actually, before we go over the stretch goals, because I was going to feel bad if I forgot. The other Kickstarter, because it actually didn't get funded, but then they did another round that did end up getting them funded. The game was Eternal Exodus by 4Day Soft. So if you remember them being on the show, they were very, very nice. Josh came on the show. He's the guy who was basically one-man armying it, including like marketing and publishing and stuff. Like Josh was like, I knew Josh was crazy when he was like, I'm also just going to be localizing the game into Japanese on my own. Like, just why not? Just because he was like, you can't make a JRPG without it being in Japanese, even if like.
Yeah,
you don't even he didn't even know if he could get a publisher there, but he's like, I've got to put Japanese in there for it. So I always want to give them a shout out, especially now that they are funded. So check out Eternal Exodus as well.
I'm going to be putting my publisher on blast for a second, not out of any hate. I'm only doing this because it's from the note. I've been pushing hard to get like a Japanese translation. Funnily enough, a Japanese and Portuguese translation of these memes
for the Zeebo theme. I understand. Okay.
Yeah. Also, because surprisingly, a good number of followers I've been getting in the last couple of years have been from Brazil. It's the most interesting combination. But yeah, I've been pushing hard to get like translations in Japanese and Portuguese for the longest time.
Just wait till we need to get the like 400% stretch goal for the like full dub, not in English or Japanese, but only the Brazilian dub.
Yes, that would be amazing.
And okay. you willed it into existence. I just F5'd and I see all of our lovely stretch goals here. Do you want to like explain it to everybody?
Yeah. Okay. So. It feels weird explaining it out of context with the rest of the game. Looking at it now, I'm just super hyped to finally get these out there, because I've been going back and forth with both my publisher and myself about this. But it's like just a bunch of new dungeons. There's a side story that I really wanna do that features like you following a side character as they go through their own little dungeon in the abyss.
So would the
highest stretch goal is
would the they speak side story be sort of, since it is like a short prologue thing, would it be basically like the equivalent of your like Curse of the Moon to your Bloodstained Kickstarter of like its own little standalone like prequel thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, and then you're saying for the highest one.
The highest one is the one that I've been getting a lot of requests for, and it is the demon romance mechanics.
As it should be. I mean, Twitter's been very vocal this week that they have a lot of thoughts about RPGs with dating mechanics. Have you seen that going around this week?
I have not.
Literally, it's the TLDR. Someone found a way to mod out certain romance options for Persona 5 Royal on PC, which has turned into clearly you're either pro pedophilia or anti pro pedophilia, and basically no matter what side you picked, you were wrong for being on any side of that argument. So I appreciate by now making the demons romanceable. Then you're in the safe. No one's going to complain about pedophile demons.
I mean, I have my own emotions about Persona and the fucking weird dating mechanics. I'm not a huge fan of Persona, especially Persona 5. I do know what you're talking about.
Can I get your opinion? Because I saw this for the first time, and I literally never thought of it in like years of playing these games. This was the only thing I'd learned this week after that whole conversation was the people out there who are like, because you are a grown adult dating minors, that makes you the weirdo. So they got rid of the adults dating the minor in the game, but if you're an adult dating minors in the game, that's also weird. I hadn't thought about that one. I've never been that introspective when it comes to JRPG dating.
It's weird. It's a lot of bad vibes all around.
You know what's more wholesome though? Hypothetical demon romance option. So how would this work in this? Please pitch me on giving you an extra 13K. Because by the way, these are pretty like humble like goal ones. Like the highest goal we have with demon romance options is only 34K.
Yeah, the publishers wanted to keep it low and realistic. So for the romance, it's like it feels weird calling it romance because every demon is like just like its own little flesh abomination. It's great for monster fuckers. It's a field day for them. I've been having people wanting to hold hands with the demons since every single demon design I release, there is going to be like 100 thirsty people for them in the comments. I'm just like, that tier is just me playing along. But how the mechanic works, it's sort of like experience or like loyalty in SMT. That was the same sort of like inspiration I was going towards. Where after a certain point, while you have them in like your party, you gain agape with them. And after certain points in progressing your agape meter, you can have like, you can read like little lore tidbits about them, their history, and then when you max it out, that leads to the quote unquote romance option.
So for all the plebes out there, the non-Zebos out there, do you mind giving a quick summary of what is agape?
Agape is like, it's like a weird old, not weird, it's like an old term in like archaic Christianity for unconditional love. It's basically like a term to refer to like divine love.
Gotcha. And actually, do you mind if I actually kind of do a quick, not sales pitch, but kind of breakdown? Because like, there's really not a ton of, and I have a couple of questions about the other like stretch goals. Just kind of like go over each one of them and ask you about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the first one, which like you're like super close to, basically like less than 2K away, is the Melancholy Manor. So I'm assuming basically this is just kind of like another like dungeon to add into the game.
Yeah, the Melancholy Manor and Pastures of Paradise are basically just new dungeons, like more combat. Melancholy Manor is actually like a revision of like the prototype that I originally made the game, or that. Okay, so when I made the game, I had like a little prototype area that I would walk around in, and that was Melancholy Manor. And when I worked on the version of the game that we have now, I sort of, scrapped that area and kind of went with a different direction. And
I'm trying to think, was Melancholy Manor in one of the earlier prototypes that were released, right, or just what was shown?
Melancholy Manor was never released.
Okay. I was going to compare this to Ground Zeroes, but you didn't charge $30 for that prototype, so I appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, no. That would be included with. It would be either included with the full game or like a free DLC.
Okay. And for like size, like I know again, especially when like games are not like content complete, like how kind of weird these can be. So if you don't have an answer, these aren't like meant to be gotcha questions. It's more just genuinely curious. Like, have you kind of thought about like, are you like maybe thinking how many dungeons you're going to have in total as of right now? Are they mostly all going to be around the same size? You're going to have some bigger ones, smaller ones, depending on what like the game sort of demands. Like, do you have any idea where you're at in terms of like level count?
I don't have a solid number off the top of my head.
That's okay.
But I do have like 3 like hub worlds, quote unquote, to go along with like some smaller dungeons inside of them.
Have we seen what like the hub worlds would like look like? Are you thinking like do like isometric cameras still walking around in first person in the hub world, or like how would you do the hub world as compared to the dungeons?
I feel like it'd be very similar with like first person roaming around mechanics. Okay. I was kind of playing around with like sort of the SMT thing where you go out into like the overworld map and it'll give you a list. But I felt like there's a very non-interactive way of going about doing it.
See, I always think of when it comes to the SMT maps, I think they just plucked one of those little tiny blue guys from the Game of Life, the board game, and that's just what you're dragging around in the city. That's always what I think of. Is there like, it's like, is anyone else thinking? No, just me. Okay, just had to make sure.
No, I get that, but I felt like that would be a weird way to go about it.
Well, because also you get to a certain point where like, and I'm sure you not struggle with this, but definitely kind of have to think about this in different ways of like, how much do I want to kind of be paying homage and how much do I want to be wholly original to like the end product what they speak, especially when something is inspired by like other games out there.
Well, I also tackled that by like going around and basically pulling inspiration from several different things and not just SMT.
Do you have like a highlight of like kind of pulls from like blah blah and blah, like any movies or shows along with like games and stuff?
You can see some inspiration from like we said before with SMT, with Baroque. I have done some inspiration with, or I've pulled some inspiration from like Nemuru Mayu, which is another PS2 game or PS1 game. That's like a surreal, like first-person dungeon crawler. I pulled inspiration from like different Japanese horror films. I'm drawing a blank right now.
No, you're good. I'm going to take a shot in the dark from one. Do you feel like any kind of inspiration similar to like any like Giger art and stuff, like especially with like the like level designs and like kind of the like horror-y aspects of like the world you're walking through?
I gotta be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Giger.
No, that's again taking a shot in the dark for a reason. So yeah, I kind of figured. So like, what if anything? What would you kind of say? Like the world you feel a little bit inspired by horror wise. If you had to think of another horror thing.
I'm thinking.
Is Hellraiser too far? Or is like not far enough?
No, Hellraiser is definitely like an inspiration.
Okay.
Like I wanted my version of Hell to like not be like to have like elements of the demons being oddly kind of into the torture.
Mm-hmm.
At least with some of them, where like the torture of the abyss sort of became their like satisfaction.
It's not fun if they're all into it. It's weird if they're all into it. You need to have some who don't like it.
It's not going to be like it's going to be like a mixed bag.
Okay.
Which you definitely see that in like the demo that's out already, is that they're all just kind of like they're all just kind of like, it sucks.
they're really malaise about it. They're like, boy, this is about as fun as going to a Spencer's on a Wednesday afternoon. Oh, I guess I should explain. Spencer's the store, not like coming to my house on a Wednesday, I would assume. I hope going to my house is more fun than going to a Spencer store and buying like butt plugs or whatever in the back or whatever people buy their anime shirts. I don't know.
Oh my god. Buying a fucking butt plug from a Spencer on a Friday and a Wednesday afternoon. Oh my god.
I hope that's like nostalgia triggering for someone. Like they just like gives them like a flashback.
I gotta be honest. I didn't see a Spencer's until I was like 23.
No one's ever been like, oh, you haven't been to a Spencer's. It's like seriously, like I can't explain it enough. Like if you don't know what a Spencer's is, it's like if someone said, "Hey, do you remember how shitty Hot Topic used to be as a kid?" and then made it somehow shittier than your memory of that old Hot Topic. That's basically what Spencer's has become now.
For me, Spencer's my only experience, one of my few experiences, is just going in there. It smells damp. It smells like someone smoking weed in the back. The floor is sticky, and I'm just like, oh fuck, I don't want to be in here for a while.
I want everyone to know, by the way, I'm not judging Spencer's because they sell the weird sex toy stuff in the back. In fact, like, I would say they're just as much of a weird store without all of that even in there. Like, you could take out all the butt plugs and, like, candy toys, and, like, it would still be a weird store I would not recommend people, like, going into, like, as if they're missing out on something. Although I will say this, it would be really funny. Imagine if just, like, one day on April Fool's, like, Hot Topic and Spencer's just swapped their Funko section and their sex toy sections. So you just go into a Hot Topic and the whole Funko wall is just replaced with strap-ons.
Oh, that's cursed. I don't like that. That's upsetting.
Oh, boy, I'm just really thinking of now though. I'm like thinking of like a nightmare Easter egg level you could put in. Is just unfortunately you've died too many times, so you're instead of being sent to a deeper level of hell, you're now just going to be sent to like Spencer's on a Wednesday.
Okay. So I got to be completely honest here. I was planning on having like a weird warped mall area, like sector fucking what's its face from Strange Journey.
Okay, yeah.
And now I just want to add like a weird like sex toy dungeon inside of it. This game is rated M, by the way.
ESRB, eat your heart out. You're gonna love rating this one.
Like, obviously I can't make it too horny, or else I'll get like bapped on the head.
The Steam horny jail that continues to pop up. Of like, I always appreciate when people I know are like, "Dang, dude, Steam is nothing but sex games," and then every now and then I'll hear people be like, "I can't believe Steam won't release my sex game." I'm like, it can't be both. Like, it can't be both at the same time. That's what I don't understand.
I mean, from what okay, there's something I've learned that continuously proves to be true is that you can't make everybody happy.
Oh, that is, yeah, for sure.
You can't please everyone, so you just gotta follow your heart and follow the weird shit that makes you happy.
So speaking of things that make me happy, the only other like stretch goal we haven't talked about, what I might say is my personal favorite, the 25K goal of the fishing minigame. Now, I take fishing minigames very seriously here. I need to know, have we designed the fishing game? Are we going Sonic Adventure? Are we going Final Fantasy 15? Are we going Final Fantasy 15's VR fishing game? Like, where are we thinking the fishing game's at right now?
Okay, so the fishing game is not set in stone yet. Honestly, that started as a joke tier.
No, get out of town. What do you mean?
It started as a joke, and it eventually became people being genuinely like, you know what, I think I kind of want a fishing minigame. So I still need to do like a lot of like research on it and like look at different fishing minigames and make it something solid. Because like I feel like if I make it like Sonic Adventures, it will trigger a lot of people's fear response.
I just actually can't even imagine how you would make something similar to Sonic Adventure in the like current gameplay setup of this week. So it'd be like, all right, guys, we're now jumping into our low poly 3D segment just for fishing.
I mean, I do want to add more like 3D models to the game. I've been actually like purposefully getting better with 3D so I can make more models for it.
Hmm.
Like the city of Dis that I'm making right now, that's like one of these central hub areas, and I'm doing a lot more 3D for that one
I
because I
feel like I
realized,
feel I feel like though honestly like I almost kind of appreciate when 3D is kind of that minimal thing. Like when we were talking about like those weird like levels of nostalgia we didn't really think about a lot of times was like those moments when you'd be playing those like late 90s games that were primarily in 2D that when you would get the like 3D sections it would be kind of cool how much it contrasts to the 2D elements there.
yeah, that's kind of what's happening with They Speak is that the majority game is like in 2D, but like there are some areas that are in 3D, and it's just like a weird kind of like shock.
By the way, have you had any moments after like kind of making They Speak so public? Have you had any moments of people not realizing how sexual some of the designs are? Like, have you ever like done too good of a job designing something, and then someone is like, "Oh my god, I completely missed the vagina there."
I cannot tell you how many times I've had people that point out the fucking vagina designs that I put in.
Is it too like it's over it? They're over analyzing all the genitals.
They're over analysis. They're over analyzing.
Has anyone added
like,
them in to be like that's not one and like oh this is it like no that's just two open wounds that's nothing that's just two open parts of a body.
okay, everyone points out that there's one of the giants that everyone's like, oh, that's a vagina face. I'm just like, no, the face is just fucked up. They never point out the giant that actually has the vaginas inside of its face.
See, I'm looking at the one where I like to like. There's the on the where the on the Kickstarter. If you're looking under Vanessa, shows the four monsters, and then the one on the bottom right. I like to imagine that like somebody's just like that's just a face with three vaginas, two for the eyes and then one for the mouth. I'd be like, what if just maybe just one of them? Who knows? What if the eyes are messed up? Who knows?
No, that's the vagina design I was talking about.
Perfect. Now I know what's going on the YouTube thumbnail.
It's the one to the left of it that people were like, that's a vagina. I'm like, no, that's not.
It is kind of those funny ones of like what people see when they're like how like, especially when you get like so many like hundreds of people like checking out something of like what because like I'm sure you have experienced this hundreds of times since then putting out the demo and stuff of like here's the intended thing that must be obvious for everybody and then it just crashing into the ground like the Hindenburg.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of that. It's
you
really funny because like I've had so many people like look at my game, point at it, and just like scream horny. Like no, it's not actually like extremely overtly horny, but some things definitely come off as more horny than I intended.
There was a great line I heard recently that I'm sure most people do not remember. If you've never heard of the show, do not feel bad. Have you ever seen the old BBC show Garth Marenghi's Dark Place?
Yes, I have seen
Perfect.
Dark Place.
Did you know Garth Marenghi actually just had a book come out like 2 weeks ago?
I didn't know that.
So, highly recommend it. It's called like Death Tome, but that's not what I'm about, but I did have to bring it because most people don't. There's a great line when Dean Lerner's describing Garth Marenghi's horror writing style, and I always think this is so funny. It's not horror that's going to make you puke. It's horror that's going to give you a hard-on, but be too scared to do anything about it. That's the kind of, like, horror level you want to be at. Like, you want to be so aroused but terrified that you would never touch yourself at all out of fear of what might happen.
I think that's the kind of horror I want to do, too, honestly. Like, that's very Clive Barker, too.
Oh yeah, see, like, oh my, there is a horror author out there. I forget his name. Like, somebody did like pull up a side by side of like Garth Marenghi fake interviews to this actual horror author, and it is just real life Garth Marenghi the way he describes talking about himself.
I fucking love that. No, but like, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place it's great. I have a group of friends that I hang out with frequently, and we just like sit around bullshit and watch like old shows. And Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is one of the ones that we that's one of our usual go-tos.
Well, Nikki, I highly recommend checking out Terror Tome, only for the fact, well, it's just straight up, like, one of his books now, but in printed form, and it's nightmarishly amazing. There's an audiobook version that is just read by him, but he's basically ad-libbing his own book. And it's like it's 8 hours of Garth Marenghi, like half aware, like reading off his book. Like even the intro, I was like losing it of like table of contents. All right, I'm not gonna read that. This part's boring. And like how like some books will like draw like a map to show you the world, so you can kind of envision it. He's like, all right, there's a map here, but I'm not gonna describe the map to you. You can't see anything. So just imagine there's a map. It'll be important later. I'll let you know if anything comes up.
I actually love that. I need to check it out.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's so like hilariously self-aware without like kind of being up its own butt meta. Like it released 2 days after Halloween, and that's like part of the joke. He's like, you may be asking yourself, Garth, why did you return with a horror book and not release it on Halloween? Well, for your information, I had a fight with my editor, and he delayed it 2 days out of spite. It's like even stuff like that. I was like, that's so perfect.
That's amazing.
And now I'm frantically trying to track down a copy because, God forbid, a Barnes & Noble here stock a Garth Marenghi book in the year 2022.
Honestly, I feel like I could go out to like a Barnes & Noble and that would be what would be there. That seems like it would track for Seattle, honestly.
The only reason, and like this is like shows how like anal I've been about this, is it doesn't have a U.S. publisher. It only has a worldwide digital publisher, and there's a small printing in the U.K. I'm sure it'll come out like in 9 months or something. Just because like with books, especially with how much digital is compared to physical, like that I understand. But it is one of those things where I'm like, I get it. Like, because we're so used to like that thing of like you go into a Barnes and Noble, and normally I have the opposite thing of like, oh my God, why are there so many books? Because they're like, people don't realize. If you've ever thought to yourself, boy, there's a lot of shitty games that release on the eShop. No, dude, just go to a bookstore and look at all the new books that come out every week. You'll think like, this has got to be a joke, right? Nope, that's a real book. They're all real.
I just think it's really funny, the mental image of you walking into a Barnes & Noble and being like, why are there so many fucking books?
I came here for your vinyl section. Why are these goddamn books here?
I come to Barnes & Noble and first thing I see is fucking books.
Listen, I'm just saying, if I walked into a Barnes & Noble and all I see is a 9,000-page tome, and all it is just the lyrics of things that Paul McCartney has written in his life, I'm not interested. Get that like thing away from me, please.
Jesus. I feel that. I immediately go into a Barnes & Noble and I would say go to the manga section, but I don't want to look like that much of a big.
Don't worry, Nikki. I'm that guy. I'll be that guy for you. I definitely. All right, sir. Where's your nearest manga section? I'll peruse the Legos for 5 minutes and then just go right to the dork section. I mean, this is how you know, like, Barnes & Noble and bookstores are wild. Like, we live in a world where there's now a dedicated light novel section.
Yeah, I went out. This is really off topic. I went out on a date with a girl a couple weeks ago.
Must be nice.
And me starting up this embarrassing manga story by saying, "Oh yeah, no, I totally went out with a girl."
Rubbing it in to everybody. I understand.
Me, her, and a friend of ours went. It wasn't a date. I gotta be honest.
We're already coming apart at the seams now. I'm sorry.
Went to a Barnes & Noble, and it was just like the three of us just sort of like trolling around the manga section, looking like the biggest pieces of shit on the face of the earth.
No,
I just thought the mental image. Fuck. I just thought that mental image was funny.
It is funny, but I need to add, because like when I hear I'm in the manga section being a huge piece of shit, this is what I think. So tell me how far or away I am from what was happening. I'm sitting in the middle of the manga section on the floor reading the book.
No, that was not me. That was another friend in the group.
That's like my go. I'll never forget. Like the last time I was at Barnes and Noble, and this really got me. A girl was just halfway reading a book of the Attack on Titan omnibus. So this giant book, she clearly has been there for multiple hours. Is like on page 400 of Attack on Titan, just sitting there. And the worst part about it, the most upsetting thing that I saw wasn't her just sitting there in the aisle reading it, blocking half the books. Was the fact that she was reading it. She's one of those people who, when they read the cover, they flip around the cover so it's like bending the spine, and it hurts my soul.
Oh, that sucks. Oh, that sucks a lot.
Yeah. That's what I think of when I think of like shitheads in the manga section, of like someone just sitting there being the definition of wasting air.
No, it was not that genuinely bad. It was just more like we were being just we were talking and like joking around in the manga section.
The worst I get is I'll pick up a copy of Dick Fight Island, and I'll show my wife, and I'll go, it says penis. It's Penis Island. Listen, I'm sorry. If you had a book that was like the female equivalent of Dick Fight Island, and it was just Vagina Rumble Bar, it wouldn't be as funny. Dick Fight Island is just a inherently funny name.
Okay, so we were in the manga section, and one of the girls I was with just like casually walked up to me and put Dick Fight Island in my hand.
No warning.
No warning. She just like came up next to me and was like, "You can't see, but I'm like just gesturing, like gently placing something in my hand." And then she walked away. Little did you know that's like that's actually like how you like initiate like a shoot off with somebody. That's one of those things that get you killed in certain countries. That is too funny. I'm gonna be real, man. I don't know if I was growing up nowadays, if my parents would let me. Like, I know my dad would, just because like my dad's cool. My mom, if I grew up nowadays, I don't think my mom would feel comfortable dropping me off in the manga section. Like, there's too much weird shit just to leave a kid. Like when I was like growing up, '04, the worst you were gonna find was some like really low level horny Shonen Jump Advance books with like maybe a nipple. But like you were never going to see Dick Fight Island as a kid back then. Yeah, the earliest indicator that I was a trans woman was me huddled into a corner of Barnes and Noble reading fucking Clamp manga.
Oh, okay. You know what's funny? Like I used to like read like a lot of the real like it wasn't even like the harem manga. Like I would read the weird stuff. Like I remember bringing to school Sister and explaining it to people, and people literally were like, "So like, are you into it?" Because I don't know if anyone here has ever read like it's not, by the way, not the Disney Channel show Sister, unfortunately. Imagine like a Shonen Jump adaptation of Sister. How amazing that would be. Just anime Tia and Tamara.
Tokyo Pop being like the shitty fucking company it is and doing that.
So, Sister is like a wild ass like manga of a guy who falls in love with a girl, and his body, and he basically gets into an accident in the beginning of the show, and his body and face get burned beyond recognition, and the only form of ID they had was he had a picture of his crush on him, and so the doctor gave him basically a sex change to become his crush, but he's still a man. But, like, it's like, well, I'm sorry, you have to look like your crush for all time. But, of course, in the most Japanese way possible, his crush has a twin sister who mysteriously moved away before the accident happened. So everyone thinks that the disfigured guy who had a crush on her now is her sister, and now he lives with his crush, and has to basically Detective Conan being, like, a trans sister while also still trying to be a boy again.
I cannot express to you how much steam is bellowing out of my ears.
Of like anger or like I can't
just like general what the fuck, because I gotta be real with you. I am real tired. I was crunching all last night So
I want you to think about this. This was a book I read in 7th grade. Imagine 7th grade me explaining this to people like this is a normal book I'm reading. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, just, you know, disfigurement and sex change. It's fine.
Is this like I just thought about this. Is this like the manga equivalent of that like Antonio Banderas movie where he like does a forced sex change that everyone hates?
I don't think I'm familiar with the movie. I don't want to know what it is. We can just stop this topic right now. But like, I cannot tell you how upset this is making me right now.
Well, everybody, don't worry. Sister, the Knot. Unfortunately, I would recommend the Disney show over the manga because it probably holds up a little bit better. It's just one of those weird things, man. Like that's as weird as it got for me, like growing up with it. But I love that that's where my head went when you were like, I would read Clamp, but I'd be like, I'd read the Disturbing Sister Love one. But like, I have no arousal to this. I'm just reading this out of morbid curiosity because it was either that or I read Ichigo 100%, and that's just about panties. So like, I can't really hide that one under the story claim.
That's one you don't want to catch your mom read. You don't want your mom catching you reading that.
I would love the image of me catching my mother, my Midwest ass mother, reading like volume 4 of Ichigo 100% and just being like, Mom, not cool.
That would be like if I fucking went home and saw my mom reading like fucking Monster Musume.
I don't know, like, that's almost like, I get it, I guess, because, like, that's just weird, like, oh, man, yeah, kids these days are going to have interesting times growing up, because, like, you know there are people out there who, like, their parents are going to be, like, the kids who wore the, like, Ahaigo, like, hoodie, unironically, like, those people are going to reproduce and have kids.
Oh, that's a terrifying concept. Don't bring that into my mind.
Yeah, I hope like there's like someone who like passes it down like a family heir.
No, that's like the curse in like a horror movie. That's like an ancient ancestral curse that's passed down for generations. But it's a fucking Ahaigo hoodie.
Oh man. Well, hey.
Ahaigo, yeah.
Oh no, it's okay. I did believe it or not. I actually have a couple other things I wanted to ask about the Kickstarter because I actually was a really late supporter of Kickstarters and stuff, and like I don't think people probably like how much people are aware. So like Kickstarter has not like stopped being a thing, but there was definitely that heyday of people were like throw it on Kickstarter and it's a guaranteed success pretty much no matter what for it. And games, like video games specifically, have had such an interesting kind of trajectory of after so many big kind of not failures but like many controversies over fulfillment of Kickstarters. Like, putting a game on Kickstarter is honestly probably almost more risky than like other kind of crowdfunding services just because unless you kind of like have that audience you know is there or can kind of trust you because like, hey, I can put out a game and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of kind of like nerve-wracking things to it. Like a big one for you, I would assume, like this is your first game. Like, it's not like you can say, hey guys, kickstart my next game. I just put out this, so now help me fund the next one. So like for you, like what kind of brought your interest to doing Kickstarter, and like were there any like kind of like things before launching it that made you like nervous or trepidatious about how it would be like received?
Yeah, of course I was nervous about it. I didn't think that I had the resume to back up starting a Kickstarter. But it was really my publisher who was like really pushing for it and really believed in the project enough to be like, hey, this is something that you can bring further above and beyond than what I could provide. Not to say like they didn't help at all, but like just the sheer like I'm trying to think of like how to word it.
Well, yeah, it's just that different thing of like a publisher, especially like on like there are obviously different levels of public. There's a big difference between something like even a Two Left Thumbs like with your game as to like a Devolver Digital or an Annapurna. Like there are so many different levels of like support and funding and things that only like one publisher can really do that like something like a Kickstarter can help elevate. I was actually curious though, how did you like hear about Two Left Thumbs, like did they contact you, or like were you like did you like stumble across them and like pitch the game to them, or like how did you come across them?
Oh, they contacted me like the day after the Markiplier video.
Oh, really? Okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if that's like a thing. Like, obviously, like I know there are so many. Well, I mean, hey, when Donkey's a video game publisher, who isn't a video game publisher these days? But I know there's a lot of publishers, but it is that thing of like I'm never really aware of like how often they're like constantly looking for like up and coming games and stuff. So like that's like was it cool? Like was it weird like when they contacted you, or was it like, oh, this is something I'm not used to being like reached out to about?
It was surreal because, up until like this point, I'd only been reached out by people who I'm gonna be real mean here. I'm gonna be real mean.
I mean, I just made a donkey joke, so I mean, we're setting the bar low, so it's okay.
It was mostly just by like literal like almost 100 like composers being like, hey, do you need music? Do you need music for your game? And
That's
me being like,
interesting.
"No."
I didn't think about that. Yeah, I would imagine that because yeah, they see that as like maybe this is an opportunity that I can work my way and kind of like. And I mean, I get it. Like, hey, like shoot your shot for sure. But yeah, if you're getting like hundreds of those, yeah, it's like how do you say no so many times to the same question by so many different people?
Oh, eventually just ignore it. Just ignore them after a point.
Yeah,
But that's
I respond to it. I'm that guy who still picks up his phone when it says scam likely. On the 1% chance, maybe I know them. Let's pick it up. I have a problem with me. I'm aware.
I get yeah, no, I get so many DMs at this point that like if it's something I'm not immediately interested in, I just don't respond to it. I feel bad because I just feel like I feel like I'm being a bit of a bitch by not responding. But
I
like,
mean, you're a one person team. Like, I mean, it's not like you're this like even one dozen like per like party studio for it. So like all that extra attention just kind of came from like putting the demo out and then like being like featured on like Markiplier's video. Like that's really what kind of like shot like your DMs and stuff.
it's from putting my game out, having it be like, actually a lot of different YouTubers played it, and
Was there
also being
anyone you
featured on the
wanted
demo
to
disc.
play it who still hasn't played it? Can we will this into existence? Was there any like Let's Player out there who you're like, oh, God, I'm dying for?
Can I be completely honest? I put my
Please.
game out there expecting for no one to play it.
I feel like that's kind of that's the headspace you want to put it out in. I feel like if you put it out there expecting like it to be on Game Grumps the next week, like you're probably like doing something wrong.
Oh, that reminds me. Something that did genuinely shock me was when Barry, of former Game Grumps fame, played my game.
Whoa, that's cool. Was it like a live stream or I don't even know if
Yeah,
he has a Let's Play channel.
He has a Twitch.
Okay.
They played it on, and like it was such a blast. It was just like a blast, like a mental fuck, seeing someone that I had watched so much growing up play the game I made recently.
It's weird too because like it's hard to describe that feeling of watching someone digest and then in a public way almost like review it in process of just like I'm going to stream my consciousness of this thing that was produced by one person and let's see what it's like. So like it's one of those weird ones of I've only had that happen a handful of times in my life with like things I've made like creatively instead things that I put out there. Like ironically, like I had this happen once and it's with someone we know where I found a live stream that was someone literally just like they did that thing of like I'm going to listen to someone's podcast and pause every 15 seconds to say what I think of the podcast, and it was like for an hour and a half long show.
Fuck.
But like, what was funny was like for me, because I'd never really had that happen before. Is like I just thought it was so interesting. Of like, it was one of those things of like because yeah, like I would love it honestly if I could like go into everyone's brain and get like an automated like little survey of like what did you think while listening to this? Because like when I make these, I'm making these basically for me. I'm making this so if people out there want to listen to it, I enjoy talking about it. I hope people out there want to listen to it. Like this is something I would want to listen to. So like that's really all I kind of expect when I put stuff out. So it is kind of funny to then like just listen to someone on a live stream sit down for like 2 hours and just like critically like dissect what is essentially just two people having a conversation and be like, it's like, man, that's so weird. But like I weirdly like dug it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Um, I can't think of anyone specifically that I want to play my game. But whenever I put my game out, like after the first like couple weeks, there was just this onslaught of Let's Plays, and somehow it got featured on like the itch front page, and it was among like different other like relatively big like indie titles like fucking Fear the Spotlight, and I'm drawing a blank. There was another one that was like on the front page first and foremost for a while. I think it was like Amanda the Adventurer was also on the front page a lot.
Have
But
you had
my game
have
was
you
like
had
right
the
up
like
there.
classic indie thing? Have you had anyone be like, "Can you put our character in your game, or can we have something from your game in our game yet?"
Uh,
Without
Sure,
naming
you
names,
can go ahead.
obviously.
I did have one person be like, "Hey, can we include the cover art for They Speak in our game?" And I was like, "Sure." I
Was
haven't
it?
heard anything about the game recently.
It was Shovel
So.
Knight 2. The game that takes from every other game. Would you put how would you incorporate Shovel Knight? That's the real question. How could we get Shovel Knight into your indie game?
No.
Now, no as in I wouldn't do it, or no as in they couldn't be in it.
Uh, Kind of both. Like, no, I wouldn't do it, and no, I don't want to do it.
Do you like? Because I feel like when it comes to like indie games, like cross collaborating, like I always look at it as like it's them being like, "Hey, we're indies, like we're all in this together." But I do definitely understand a lot of people look at that stuff and they just kind of look at it like it's just ads in your game, like you're just putting an ad for Shovel Knight every time he's in another indie game.
I mean, let's be honest here. They're indie games. Like, we need all the promotion we can get.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care that much in that regard. You know, who gives a shit if you see Shovel Knight? It's not like we're gonna see. Okay. I don't want to dig myself a hole here. I don't know this because I don't watch ads. Is there like an ad on like sites for Shovel Knight?
At
Is
one
that
point,
like
yeah, like at one point in time, yeah, probably when the base game came out. But no, yeah, they weren't like the kind of company like Yacht Club wouldn't really like. The worst I would say they are with ads is like when they hire Aaron from Game Grumps to do a promo video. That's the worst that Yacht Club gets with ads. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, but like there's only so much that you can get with like an indie level marketing campaign.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%.
So I don't really care about different indie characters being in different games.
Has there ever been one you were like, oh, it'd be cool to include like this cameo from another game if like all legal obstacles were out of the way? Oh man, it's the decapitated head of James from Silent Hill 2. All right.
Oh no! But yeah, I just think cameos are neat. I just think they're cool, honestly.
Oh, hey, listen, you're talking to a guy who goes to every Marvel movie at launch. I'm very easy to win when it comes to cameos, trust me. I just don't tweet
I also
about
know
them.
like fucking SMT fans are really
I don't know, man. I'd say those are weak ass cameos. Like, I don't know if this is a hot take. When your cameo is give me $7 for a cameo boss fight, that's not cool. It's cool when he's just there. Like Raito being in Nocturne, honestly, that's weaker to me than Dante. Dante being in there's like that's stupid, but at least makes sense to me. Raito feels like an ad.
yeah. I more mean like references and like cameos and shit, just like little gags. I like gags.
Would you
That's
think,
what
I guess,
I'm
kind of
trying to
sticking with
say.
Nocturne, would you count like the Mara summoning side boss as like a gag reference?
I would say it's a gag, yeah.
Okay. I get,
Because
yeah,
they do
those
have like the little
those are
dancing
fun.
statues from like SMT1 in the background.
True. Yeah, that makes
It's like
sense.
it's just a gag, and I can appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, that I'm definitely. See, I was thinking we were meaning way more like the Star Wars thing of look, it's Chewbacca. That's a
No, I don't mean
reference.
like I don't mean like fucking overt. I mean just like, huh, that's neat.
That was like I saw something recently. Speaking of Star Wars, like this was like a good one of like someone like pointed out being like, "Oh man, Star Wars is so pandering because in the new show Andor, in one episode in the background there is a Sith armor that you can wear in the like DLC for Force Unleashed 1." And someone was like, "Oh, this is ruining the show for me. It's just nothing but callbacks." I'm like, "Okay, like, are you aware of like the amount of nerd knowledge you would need to recognize DLC armor from the fucking Force Unleashed?
Yeah.
Like, that's not R2D2. Like, that's like one where like that's just cool. That's like, hey man, that's a cool like." Obscure ass Easter eggs are fun. Like it, like you have to like almost be like those people who are like, you look at something like Daredevil in She-Hulk. Most people are going to look at his yellow costume and go, that looks like mustard and ketchup and looks dumb. But for all those nerds out there who remember when Daredevil was mustard and ketchup flavored, that's cool for us.
I just think little like funny bit or like funny little callbacks are cool. I don't know. Like that's just my genuine reaction is like, ah, that's neat.
Mm-hmm.
If that's like the entire like thing it's built around, then it's like okay, we get it. But if it's
Yeah,
just, like, a
you
little
you, ne-
thing,
you
like,
never want it to be like a crutch, where then it just feels like you're having member berries thrown in front of your face for the entire game.
it's accent, it's flavoring.
Have you a good one? Kind of, and this is going to transition to a question I was wanting to ask you. Have you ever played Lone Survivor?
I have not.
Do you know what it is?
Yes.
Okay. So, Lone Survivor actually started out kind of similarly. It was a demake for Silent Hill 2. Actually, no. I think it actually did release. It was a demake of Silent Hill 2 called Quiet Hills or something. It was like Quiet Peaks or something, and the developer Jasper Byrne like basically was like, "Hey, this had a good reception. Let's make it its own horror game," and that's where Lone Survivor came from. And like Lone Survivor is like a really good one for me. Of like, it's full of exactly what you're talking about. It's like if you know, you know, but if you don't, it still holds up as a really good horror game.
Yeah, if it's its own product, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's no just there's no moment where you're playing the game and goes, "Oh, there's a red pyramid thing." Do you get it? It's the pyramid guy. Like no, it's a lot of like very like tiny little things, which I appreciate. Which, by the way, everyone out there, please either tweet at the developer Jasper Byrne or buy Super Lone Survivor, because I've never heard of this before. So he basically remade or made a re-enhanced port of Lone Survivor for PC and was going to put it on Switch. Because it hadn't been ported in almost like a decade. It was review bombed so bad on Steam, he canceled the Switch port. Which was done.
No.
Like, he basically got one bad review that just said, this is a cheap cash grab, and then people were just dogpiling it and then not buying it, so that it sold so bad. The finished, like, the plan was it released on Halloween for Steam, and a week and a half later was going to be on Switch. Like, it's done. It's ready to go, but he's, like, the reception to it was so bad, he just canceled the Switch release because he just thought no one wants it.
That's so depressing, honestly.
Yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, man, because like, I can't imagine that feeling of like you work so hard on something and then just one person giving you like a shitty like review, like not even saying like their review isn't like valid or whatever, but then just thinking everyone's gonna take that review for gospel, that all your hard work's not there, like how much that's gotta suck.
Oh yeah, it's super easy to like fucking take down a small indie person, and it's disheartening.
I like when I come across like games I either know or didn't know like this was a thing of like, hey, like reviews can really mess up not only just the algorithm but just like the word of mouth of like making people basically never want to touch it like it's poisoned. So like that's why like I was commenting to you before we got the show started of like I'm so glad so many people like you were telling me already how many people have wishlist the game on Steam. I was like that's awesome because like the hardest part is just not only even getting your foot in the door is just getting people to look at you try to put your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Which by the way everybody, click the links below. Wishlist the game on Steam and play the demo because it's free.
Click the link to put your foot in the door.
There you go. Not sponsored. Not sponsored content, unfortunately.
Not sponsored. You just have the developer on stream. It would be weird if like if you brought the developer on stream and then you're just like, yeah, she has a Kickstarter. I'm not going to tell you what it is though. You have to figure out yourself. Have fun.
I mean, I can imagine a really poorly ran podcast where that happens. I'm just like, hey, were we supposed to talk about your Kickstarter? Ah, dang. All right, well, whatever. As horror fans, how much have you enjoyed the conversation on like social media of like all it took was people to see a Dead Space, a Resident Evil, and a Silent Hill happening all within 12 months of each other for people to be like, horror games are back, everybody! We went for 20 years with no horror games apparently. Congrats, the genre's back. Like that whole thing is like I know people get annoyed by it, but like I laugh at that. I'll be like, dude, horror has literally never went away. Like it's changed a lot. But horror never left.
It's weird because I see or I hear some people being like, "Oh yeah, this is the renaissance of like low poly horror," and I'm just like, I've been playing low poly horror ever since I was a teenager. Like
they're gaslighting you. Those didn't matter.
Like the renaissance has been happening. It's just becoming more mainstream now because more big content creators are like picking it up. I know that fucking Nexpo did a video on the Haunted PS1 collection, and he included the word abyss in the fucking video title, and I just felt my heart sink, but he didn't talk about these people at all.
Damn. Well, I always appreciate at least the fact that you, much like myself, know that we're not in the Renaissance. Sorry, guys. We're probably, if anything, at this point now in the Bronze Age of horror games.
Like, again, Honda PS1 has been around for years before this point, too.
Yeah, because, what was the one you were featured on was, what, number... God,
it was number 3.
Yeah, because it's not a new concept. It's not the first. It's not the last. And there are plenty of other alternative ones really out there. And I think the point of bringing that up of horror's not new again or horror's not fresh again. It's not to say hey you can't be excited about AAA horror. I'm super excited about all of those games coming out, like Callisto Protocol, whatever, big or small. I love having any of it. The message for me usually just ends up being hey. Let the takeaway be continue to look at the not big stuff because there's a lot of really cool that's what I always find funny, especially when Game of the Year conversations come up when it's people are looking at indie games this year and they think, oh, Stray, that's the only indie game that happened this year, or maybe Sifu. All these games that I don't think those games count as indie because they're these $1 million budgets even by indie game standards. I think of them the stuff you'd see on itch or the stuff you would see pop up on the PS1 horror demo disc. Check out those things because usually there's not that big of a price barrier with most of these other games, and they need more attention than money at the end of the day.
Oh, all the demo discs have been free. So.
Oh, but I mean in terms of there's not a price keeping you from playing it. It's not I'd love to play They Speak, but it's $15 and I don't have the cash right now. It's no, there's a demo. Go check it out. Yeah,
it's literally free. There's so many good games on itch that are sadly just overlooked all the goddamn time. Especially I could go on for hours about all of the awesome games on the demo disc, especially the one that was released this year. It was a good collection, and I'm not saying that because I'm biased because I was on it. I'm saying that because some of the games on there are genuinely moving experiences.
There was one other thing I was going to say. Yes, reminder before we wrap up the show, because we got a shill on the Shillcast apparently. So remember, guys, check out the They Speak from the Abyss demo. It's all on Steam. Check out the Kickstarter. You got a week. Oh, that's so that's so weird. I just pulled it up, and there was another donation for $50 that just got pulled on there. So thank you, backer number 468. I just saw you deposit your hard-earned dollars into getting us one step closer to romancing and/or fishing.
Romancing and/or fishing.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, you put the fish in and then the romance. Clearly, that means that there might be romance as part. Maybe there's a fishing date. You can have the demons go on a fishing date with you. Who knows? The possibilities are endless for the stretch goals.
I would actually genuinely. You're giving me ideas now.
Thank you.
Just fucking cool shit to do.
Only thing I'll expect in return, not residuals, just in the credits say bad ideas responsible of Spencer. Then that's all the people will need. No, you don't have to describe anything either. Just anything you didn't like in the game was a suggestion by me. Then you can be like, that's my out.
Exactly. You're going to be my scapegoat.
I'll be your birdie Madoff for They Speak. But yeah, so
is there anything else?
Well, I wanted to ask, do you guys have any plans? Obviously, you're working on the demo and stuff right now, but do you guys have any crazy last minute fundraising plans of gonna have a telethon, horror marathon, streaming anything? Any plans yet in the next week before the campaign ends? People should look out for.
That's not a bad idea. I might have to make plans to do that.
It's okay. I have helped with enough Kickstarters in my time that anything I can do to try and help them make as much money as humanly possible makes me happy.
I'm genuinely trying my best to get the updated demo released here in the next week or so, before the Kickstarter ends.
I hope if you don't, I don't want anyone to give you a hard time. I want someone to go to the YouTube comments of this podcast if it doesn't end up getting posted before the campaign ends and just say, thanks, Spencer. You're the reason that we didn't get the demo in time.
Yeah, because I took 2 hours out of my day to come here and talk to you.
Listen, game dev time for productivity, 2 hours could be the equivalent of 12 hours tomorrow. Who knows?
That's actually entirely true. So we'll see what happens. I do have another special game coming up. It's completely separate from They Speak. I can't talk about it. I can just say ominously, I have another game on the horizon.
We'll just call it Jack Bros 2.
Yeah, I have Jack Bros 2 on the horizon.
That would be hilarious. Atlas is you know what? We're going to really lean into the 30th SMT anniversary and just really let everybody know. We care about indie, so we're gonna make a bunch of indie games this year because we're not gonna do anything ourselves.
Yeah. Well,
I do have a couple people from Atlas and Sega PR following me.
Oh, must be nice. First the date, now this. Man, I'm feeling really, really out of place now.
Yeah, I'm budding up with fucking Sega. No, I wouldn't. I would never.
So what you're saying is there will definitely be Sonic Frontiers DLC that features Sonic in a They Speak from the Abyss t-shirt.
It's going to be whenever they put Sonic in D2, and it's just a weirdly out of place demon, and
Oh my god, that might be the actual deepest cut you made on this entire show. More than the... Oh my god, I forgot about that. I don't think you are aware of how few people know about D, let alone D2.
Let alone the fucking Sonic crossover that happened years ago.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I forgot all about that. Thank you for putting that worm back into my brain. Unironically, I love the D games. The D games are so nostalgia blinding for me.
Spencer, you're talking about the SMT Gotcha game.
No! I thought you were talking about the horror game D!
No, I'm talking about the SMT Gotcha game where they released Sonic as a summonable.
What on earth did you mean DX2? Who calls DX2 D?
Spencer.
Oh no.
D2.
D2? No.
That's
I mean, I'm already bad about DX2. in terms of like my lack of attention I'll ever get it. But like, all right, no, then I apologize. The Zeebo is definitely more obscure than Sonic's cameo, along with Berserk, Bayonetta, and DMC5. So no, the Zeebo still wins the obscure references of the episode.
Yeah, I was just talking about a shady gotcha game, not like an actual genuine deep cut.
Thank you. I was giving you more credit by showing you like how bad my ears are apparently at like 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you giving me the live correction.
I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about the obscure game D
Or D2.
or D2. I am very sorry. I misled you.
It's okay. Most people aren't talking about D2 in the year 2022, so I definitely understand that. But, Nikki, where can people find you online when you're not on this podcast on a 2.5-year basis?
Well, you can find me on my Twitter account. That is at the Fifth Kalpa. But Twitter is going down the old shithole. So you can also find me on. Oh, God. I can't believe I'm fucking shilling a Tumblr in the year 2022.
Dude, seeing Tumblr ads in 2022 was wild. I'm like, Tumblr being a thing still isn't that weird. Ads for Tumblr on Twitter, that's weird to me.
I'm suffering that I have to plug my fucking Tumblr on the occasion that the fucking Twitter goes down in fucking flames. But you can find me on there as Nikki Kalpa. And you can find me on Itch as the Fifth Kalpa.
And then obviously we'll have all the links and stuff on there. And I hope we give you the nice SMTN bump on the YouTube page just to really confuse you even more. I do love, by the way, that your cover image on your YouTube channel is just like an extremely zoomed in shot of the Lady in Black's face.
Yeah. Oh,
God
you
bless.
Not be so loud. My fucking roommate's asleep.
I mean, it's like 7 o'clock for you at least. It's not that late.
Yeah, it's just like a hyper zoomed in picture of the Lady in Black because I didn't have anything else for like a cover photo.
I need to update mine as well, but that's a story for another day. Before we get out of here, and I say all my goodbyes really fast, we're going to end on a kind of Atlas related note, which, by the way, I'm going to ask you questions. You're unprepared. If your answer is just I haven't played them, or I don't know, or I don't care, totally valid. So don't worry.
Okay.
Are you ready for the rapid fire questions?
I'm ready.
What did you think of SMT5?
I thought it was alright. The gameplay was fun. The story was in.
What did you think of Persona 5 Strikers?
I don't give a shit.
I have 9 copies behind me. Do you need me to mail you one for Christmas?
Look, it's not that I can't afford it. I'm just not interested. I was on a friend's stream while she was playing Persona 5 Strikers, and I was so goddamn bored the entire time.
Well, of course, I mean, yeah. That's not a game I don't want to watch somebody play when I could be playing it myself, but I'm very biased to that. Okay, then last but not least, well, actually, here, no, we do two real quick. What did you think of Nocturne HD?
Honestly, I would have enjoyed it more if it didn't crash 5 times when I was playing it.
The real PC experience.
Yeah, like I used to be a big like detractor. Like I hated on it a lot, but you know it's all right. It's Nocturne on PC.
I mean, hey, playing it in 2022 is a lot better than the state it launched in 2 years ago. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean that's really a thing you can say about any game is that when it launches, it's going to be a shit show. It's
probably not one you would expect for a PlayStation 2 HD remaster, but yeah, in most games that is definitely the case. And then last but not least, I'm expecting nothing from this, but I might as well ask, what do you think of Soul Hackers 2?
Honestly, I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I know I loved you, Nikki. Thank you. Ending on a high note. Thank you so. Why do you not hate it?
I don't know. It's just not bad.
Like, nothing but the hottest takes on this episode, folks.
It's almost impossible to follow up Soul Hackers 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna say that right now. Like following up Soul Hackers 1 is an impossible task. But Soul Hackers 2, for what it was, I don't know. I just didn't think it was that offensively bad.
I appreciate you being on the right side of history. Thank you very much. And if you
Like,
would like
I
to
still
be
haven't
on the
beat it yet. I still only played like a couple hours of it, but
what
I didn't
what
have a
dungeon
bad
are you
time.
on? What uninspired setting are you currently trapped in? A sewer? A shipping crate?
Uh, I'm in Tron.
Oh, okay. I know where
I'm
you
in
are.
boring Tron.
So good news, the game actually is one of those funny ones of it just gets better. Like even if people hate it, it is one of those things of it does at least continue to get better the more you play it. So if you are enjoying it now, it will at least not end on a lower note than when you started.
All right, yeah, I'll get up the ability to play it one of these days.
Well, you kind of have like a $20,000 of responsibility now looming over your head, so you have a good excuse not to play other games right now.
I mean, but taking breaks is important.
Very
But anyway,
mental
we're
health
getting off
breaks for
topic
sure.
right now during the outro.
Well, yeah. Well, I had a great segue in. Be like, speaking of being on the right side of history, you can go on to patreon.com/SMTN and be on the financially right side of history by donating to this show. Boy, what a bad segue that was. If you want to help support this show, you can donate $1 a month, get the show a little bit early sometimes, get exclusive giveaways. But if you'd like me to say your name at the end of every episode, you can be a $5 and up executive producer, just like the lovely folks here, such as Jagingus, Bud White as their tall cans, Carlos Hernandez, Contraband, Cross Renren, Dr. Luma, K-Horse, Patrick. Welcome back, by the way, Patrick. I think you literally just got on today, so welcome back. Philip Meyer, Solaire, Cameron Sharp, all of you guys, thank you so much for donating. It really, really helps, especially with like the hosting fees and just getting the show posted everywhere. But all of our socials will be below. I've taken up enough of your time listening, and especially Nikki's time. Nikki, thank you so much for attempting to keep this a 2-hour show with me. It was a blast to catch up with you. And if you didn't have 9 other things juggling on your plate right now, I would gladly talk your ear off about games, game devs, and just things in general, because I miss talking to you.
Oh, thank you. It was good to be on.
Well, I look forward to next time where we can talk about other awkward things to do in Barnes & Noble. By the way, guys, if you have any cringy Barnes & Noble stories, please share them in the comments below. I appreciate, like, nerdy stories from the Barnes & Noble manga section. Only good memories can come from there, I'm sure.
Well, I will see you in 2024, 2025.
Yes, we're gonna have to have a post. We're gonna have like a post-mortem. I'm gonna bring a cancel on, and we're all gonna like dissect They Speak with you, just listening live, and we're just gonna like kind of just have like a little post-mortem of it for you, and I'm sure that'll be not awkward at all.
Oh, I would rather be thrown inside a wood chipper.
Well, unironically, we are greatly looking forward to your game, so hopefully we can get a couple more eyeballs or people to check out the Kickstarter and demo and stuff for it, but really looking forward to like seeing how the rest of the development goes for you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for having me on again.
All right. Well, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week for a not Kickstarter episode, I promise. We're not just going to do back-to-back shills, but we will see you next week, and thank you all so much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.